welcome here today to a post-race analysis video. I just got done watching an epic finish to the Quaker State 400 at Kentucky Speedway. And we are going to take you through what happened in this one. A lot of the bigger action came at the end of the race, as I'll get into. But first and foremost, we started this race with Kyle Busch on the pole, leading the first 9 laps of this race before Eric Almirola had taken the lead away from him and pretty much led every lap since then. Every lap that mattered, at least. There's actually no green flag pit stop. He led until the competition yellow. They came onto pit road. Everybody had plenty of fuel to make it to the end of the stage. And Eric Almirola just flat out dominated. No caution for incident in the opening stage. And Eric Almirola was looking like the guy to beat early on, winning stage 1. Early on in stage 2, a lot of the same. Eric Almirola was taken off. And then at the end of that opening stint on tires is where things started to change. You saw Ryan Blaney take over. Maybe it looked like he was the fastest car throughout the course of the race. Ryan Blaney back in stage 1 had a shifter issue going into turn 1. His car hopped out of 4th gear. He was driving with one hand in turns 1 and 2 all day long from about lap 40 all the way to the end of the race. Pretty incredible, especially knowing that he was running inside the top 5 all day long on top of it. So very incredible performance, to say the least, out of Ryan Blaney. Scored a lot of stage points today. But despite leading towards the end of stage 2, there's a spin that brought out the first caution for incident involving Matt Kenseth in the 42 car. It looked like he lost his left rear tire. It was flat. He ended up losing control, so that brought out a caution and a 1-lap restart that ended up with a photo finish between Keselowski and Ryan Blaney. Keselowski got the lead because of track position on a pit strategy kind of game. He was going to stay out absolutely as long as he could. He came down onto pit road, so he's already servicing the car on pit road. Caution came out while he was in the lead, and ultimately had just good enough of a restart to beat Blaney back to the line on that 1-lap dash to win stage 2. So Keselowski went on to win stage 2 by a nose on teammate Ryan Blaney, and I think Logano was right there as well for 3rd. So Penske had a great run early on. We went into the 3rd and final stage of the race. Keselowski had the great restart about 30 laps into the run. Martin Truex Jr. took the lead, and Martin Truex Jr. was not looking back through the pit stops, the green flag stops. They cycled through, or about cycled through, before the caution came out. The left rear of Brendan Poole went flat. Austin Dillon also went for a spin there. He tried to avoid pit road because the caution was out before he was on pit road, and he ended up turning into the outside wall on the front stretch, so that didn't look very pretty. For pretty gaudy, to be completely honest, out of Austin Dillon, but it was bad luck to have to avoid pit road. It was just bad timing for the caution on his behalf, because otherwise he played the strategy well by staying out as long as he could until he ended up with that. It didn't look like he had a lot of damage. I'm not sure how that affected him in his finish, because I'm not exactly sure where he finished, but I'm sure that definitely cost him a little bit of that ground he could have made up. Regardless of the fact that with that caution coming out, it really changed the running order for the most part. It ended up being Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney on the restart with just over 30 laps to go, battling it out side by side for about a lap off the restart before Martin Truex Jr. was able to get going. Blaney was right there on his back bumper the whole time, but about 6-7 laps into that green flag run, they get another caution. Notice there's going to be a trend here. On that next caution, there was a restart again. Ryan Blaney in 2nd on the bottom of the track with the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. on the top. And going down into turn number 1, Jimmy Johnson tried to throw a block on Brad Keselowski, who had a big run behind him. Johnson was in 3rd. Keselowski was in 5th on the restart. Keselowski was already there, ran him all the way to the infield. Once he got connected, he couldn't get off of him. So Jimmy Johnson ended up spinning through the grass. Not a good run for Jimmy Johnson after that point, which was tough because he was inside the back half of the top 10 all day, was working hard in that final stage to get the track position he needed, and he was looking really good up until the end of that race, maybe even looking like a contender to win it until that situation. So unfortunate, that's just kind of been the last couple of years really for Jimmy Johnson. And he didn't need that being on the bubble, especially with what happened at the end of this race. They actually had 2 more restarts. The second to last restart ended up seeing Kevin Harvick make a 3-wide pass on the bottom. It looked like Blaney and Truex were going to wreck each other on the restart, and I don't know how there wasn't an accident off of that restart the entire way. Harvick took it 3 wide at the bottom, restarted in 3rd behind Blaney, and off of turn 2 was barely able to clear Blaney and barely able to clear Martin Truex Jr. on the restart. Truex tried to run him back down. Blaney was falling back. He still stayed in third place, but it looked like it was a race between Harvick and Truex. Truex got up to him with about 10 laps to go, couldn't get around him. Harvick made a very daring move. It looked like he basically stayed full throttle through 3 and 4, the way he zipped right back around on the outside of Truex. Caution came out a couple laps later with 7 to go. It was looking like that was going to be a spectacular finish there, but we ended up having another spectacular finish of our own. So that set up the green-white checker, 2 laps to go, which ultimately decided the finish. I'm going to break this down as best as I can with my ability of what I saw, but there was a lot going on there. By the way, that last restart, there was a lot of 4-wide action mid-pack again. Don't know how everybody made it through. And I don't know how everybody made it through this final restart as well. So restarting on the front row, you had Kevin Harvick on the outside with the lane choice there with being in the lead. Martin Truex Jr. on the bottom. Aggressive side draft in between the two. Truex tried to pull up in line behind Harvick. Misjudged it. About turned Harvick down the back straightaway. With a lap and a half to go. Harvick ended up on the inside. Truex, therefore, with the broken momentum of the 4 of Harvick going into turn 3, had the momentum on the outside. They're side by side. They're side drafting so hard off of turn 4. Blaney takes it 3 wide to the bottom and takes it all the way down to the apron. Meanwhile, while the 19 and the 4 are side drafting, and the 12 of Blaney's down on the apron trying to cut the front stretch, Cole Custer's got a big head of steam behind him after a push from Matt DiBenedetto. And Custer's got the run down the front stretch. Takes the veterans to school on the outside. 4 wide going into turn 1. Blaney hits the drainage pipe, running so low on the apron through the front stretch that his left side tires hop over it. I didn't know that that's what happened at first. I thought he just ran out of room, but I guess he hopped over it. Don't know how he didn't lose control of the car. Slams back into the door of Kevin Harvick. They never wrecked somehow. And Cole Custer just barely clears Martin Truex Jr. off of turn 2 and is able to hold him off the last half a lap. An incredible run. Rookie Cole Custer gets his first career win in the not the Monster Energy Cup Series, but in the NASCAR Cup Series. Unbelievable. I did not think if there was going to be a rookie to win this year that it would have been Cole Custer to be the first of those rookies to win this year. Well deserved. He was inside the top 10 a lot at the end of the race. Put himself in the good position. Goes from 4th to 1st on the 4-wide pass into turn 1 on the outside at Kentucky. Incredible. We've seen a lot of 4-wide restarts in the race, but nothing like that. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in my life. 4-wide pass on the top side anywhere, rather yet at 1.5 miles on the last lap of a race. That was an incredible finish to what was a pretty good race for the most part. It kind of drug on a lot early because there wasn't really a lot of action. It was a lot of one-car domination. But then you really saw the strategy really start to play out at the end of stage 2, and that's when things started to really get interesting throughout the course of this race. So I definitely picked up the drama for about the last just over 100 laps of this 267-lap, 400-mile race at Kentucky here today. So Cole Custer just goes on to win the race, and that really turns the playoff bubble upside down because, of course, he had a lot of guys right there, right around 16th, and Cole Custer was sitting right about, I believe he was 24th in the point standings coming into this race today, was not going to make it in on points, likely not going to make it in on points. With just 9 races left in the regular season, that win puts him into the 16-man playoff. He is now the 9th different winner this season, so only 7 spots open up, and that is not what guys like Jimmy Johnson, Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, William Byron, and Eric Jones needed that were on the cut line, needing a guy way behind them in points like Cole Custer to win. We still got more wild card races. This was not supposed to be a wild card race by any means, especially the way it was playing out early on with only playoff contenders really being at the forefront. But Cole Custer led 1 lap under green in this race, and it was the very final lap of the race. He had never led at all this season or at all in his career except for the 4 laps he was able to lead today, and 3 of which were just because of pit road cycling and 1 being the most important on the final lap. So I'll take you through the results and then see how the fantasy team did. Man, what a race. So let's take you through the finishing results here in this race. Cole Custer again with the win. Martin Truex Jr. ended up 2nd in that last lap craziness. Matt DiBenedetto finished 3rd in his post-race interview. He said he was in 18th place with 7 laps to go. So right before that last caution came out for another Matt Kenseth spin, Matt DiBenedetto was in 18th, got up to third. Incredible run there for Matt DiBenedetto. He was deserving of a top 10 finish, fell behind late there, but as you saw, Matt DiBenedetto got a third place finish. So he was pleased by that. Kevin Harvick ended up falling back to fourth there. Surprised he made it the entirety of the last lap after that hard contact with Blaney after Blaney hit the drainage pipe because Harvick had a massive tire rub the entire last lap. But he survived. He finished fourth. Kurt Busch fifth. Ryan Blaney, like I mentioned, fell back to sixth. Christopher Bell, seventh. Eric Almirola, eighth. Ninth was Brad Keselowski, and Tyler Reddick rounds out the top 10. So 3 rookies in the top 10, one of which getting the win. The rookies have been really performing pretty well this year as they were kind of hyped up. But, of course, it's been a while since we've seen a rookie class stacked like this in the Cup Series and actually perform. And it's nice to see one of them go to victory lane. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Reddick or Bell won before the end of the regular season, too. So that could definitely throw even more things on their side. So there's a look at your other finishing results there of drivers, maybe your favorite drivers or notable finishers outside of the top 10. Of course, Kyle Busch was running there late. He had to pit. He was having an issue with his right rear, and they never really got a chance to fix it during the race, so that kind of costed him. He was my pick to win the race and was never really contender all race long. Outside of starting on the pole, that was really the only highlight of the race was him leading the first 9 laps. Eric Jones was also my fantasy team, did not perform well either. As far as the DNFs go, John Hunter Nemechek got in an accident, Ryan Preece had a transmission issue, and Timmy Hill failed to finish with an electrical issue. But all those accidents that we saw throughout the course of the race and how we didn't see an accident in those last 2 restarts, major accidents, weren't many DNFs. So now let's take a look at how the fantasy team did. Well, the fantasy team did not do well at all here today. Only had a couple guys finish inside the top 10, 2 of which in the top 5, but outside of that, not a lot to brag about. So Kyle Busch, like I mentioned, he had that issue. He did not score well. Kurt Busch and Martin Truex Jr. were the only 2 on my team that had finished inside the top 5, or even inside the top 10 for that matter, and were even remotely competitive all day. Truex obviously had a shot to win late. Couldn't quite get it done. He was one of my must-haves. So was Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch did not perform, so I was definitely wrong on that. Something else I was wrong on was maybe to stay away from William Byron. He didn't get any stage points today, but he did finish 11th. It's better than a lot of guys could have had. Maybe not necessarily one of the, drivers to stay away from, but he definitely didn't perform well, and Alex Bowman was a non-factor all day. I think he finished outside the top 20, or at least was running right around 20th the whole race. Eric Jones was a non-factor. This is the first Kentucky race of his 4 now Kentucky Speedway races in the Cup Series that he has not finished inside the top 10. So that streak comes to an end. And Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell, I let it down to 2 rookies, but I picked the wrong rookie. I should have put Cole Custer in the lineup because not only he won the race, but he actually scored more points than anybody else, having 8 stage points to go along with the 40 place points for winning the race for the fantasy sake of things. So kind of lost out there, and obviously it was a battle between Reddick and Bell there. They were my bottom scores at the end of stage 2. So it was like a flip of the coin. I have more confidence in Reddick. He's been more consistent all year, and Bell ended up outscoring him by 3 anyway. And obviously not only that, but in hindsight, probably should have put Kyle Busch or Eric Jones in the garage, but it's a tough call. It's the first bad week I've had in a very long time. It's probably been since, Phoenix this year. Probably before the pandemic since I've had a week this bad in fantasy. But I guess I was due for one, so we got to go hard these last 9 races if we still want that shot at $25,000. But, yeah, no bonus points at all either. I mean, at least if Truex would have won, I would have had some sort of bonus points, but that was not good. Probably going to drop out of the lead now in the NASCAR Weekly Podcast League. But it's just one bad week. Taking the All-Star race off. There's no fantasy there, but I'll still have a predictions video that day. I'm obviously going to the race, so if anybody sees me there, be sure to say hello. I am friendly. I will not bite. But that is going to be it here for this one. Comment down below. What were your thoughts on the race? How were your fantasy team lineups? And did you enjoy it, first and foremost? So that is going to be it for this one. Subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Hit the like button down below if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.